Have you ever wondered that in just 30 minutes, your life could take a turn that changes everything? 30 minutes. That's less time than an episode of your favorite show, less time than a scroll through social media, less time than many of us spend worrying about things that may never even happen. But those 30 minutes, if invested with awareness, discipline, and intention, can become the most life transforming half hour of your day. The question is, are you ready to gift yourself just 30 minutes that could rewrite the story of your life? My friends, we often think life changes only when something big happens. A promotion, a marriage, a business deal, or an unexpected challenge. But the truth is, life rarely changes in one big moment. Life changes in the small choices we make every single day. It changes in the 30 minutes we give ourselves to reflect, to grow, to connect with God, and to strengthen our mind and heart. And when you consistently dedicate 30 minutes to the right things, it doesn't just change your day, it transforms your entire life. So today, let us reflect together on how 30 minutes, wisely spent, can change the course of your journey forever. 30 minutes of silence with yourself may sound like a luxury in a world that constantly demands your attention. But in truth, it is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Imagine waking up in the morning and before the rush of responsibilities begins, before the noise of messages, calls, and news floods your mind, you choose to sit quietly with yourself. You don't reach for your phone, you don't reach for distractions, you simply reach for your own presence. That moment of silence is like giving water to a thirsty plant. It nourishes your soul in ways you may not even realize. Think about it, my friends. We often spend hours in the company of others, listening to their words, responding to their requests, fulfilling their needs. But how often do we truly sit with ourselves, listening to our own heart, asking what we truly feel? Many people fear silence because in silence, all the suppressed thoughts and emotions surface. Silence has a way of making us face the truths we have been running away from. But here lies the secret. When you allow yourself to sit in that silence for even 30 minutes, you realize that silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. Picture a pond that has been disturbed by a stone. The water ripples, the mud rises, and the reflection becomes unclear. This is how our mind looks throughout the day, disturbed, restless, agitated. But if you let that pond remain undisturbed, slowly the ripples settle, the mud sinks, and the water becomes clear enough to reflect the sky. In the same way, 30 minutes of silence allows the ripples of your thoughts to calm down, the agitation of your worries to settle, and suddenly you see life with more clarity. Problems that seemed overwhelming appear manageable. Decisions that looked confusing start to make sense, and the anxiety that weighed you down begins to lighten. Let me share an example from daily life. Imagine a person who works in a high-pressure office environment, meetings, deadlines, constant emails, and never-ending calls. By the end of the day, he is drained, and by the beginning of the next day, he is already anxious. Now, instead of diving straight into this cycle, if he chooses to give himself 30 minutes in the morning, just sitting quietly, closing his eyes, breathing deeply, and letting thoughts pass without reacting, something begins to change. At first, he may feel restless, but over time, that silence gives him strength. His mind becomes less reactive, his decisions become sharper, his conversations more patient. The same office stress remains, but his response changes because his inner state is calmer. Silence is not about running away from the world. Silence is about preparing yourself to face the world with balance. When you sit quietly, you begin to hear a deeper voice, not the voice of fear, not the voice of doubt, but the voice of wisdom, the voice of God guiding you gently. We miss that voice because we are too busy listening to everything else. But in silence, the heart becomes a temple, and in that temple, you feel the presence of something greater than yourself. Another daily example, think about how often we speak words we later regret. It happens because our mind is filled with noise, and in that noise, we react rather than respond. Now imagine if you spent 30 minutes each day practicing silence, cultivating patience with your own mind. That practice spills over into your interactions. When someone speaks harshly, instead of immediately reacting, you pause, you breathe, you respond with wisdom. That one shift can transform relationships, bring peace into families, and save friendships from unnecessary conflicts. Even in practical matters, silence sharpens your productivity. For example, when a student spends 30 minutes in silence before studying, his focus becomes sharper because the silence organizes his mind. When an entrepreneur spends 30 minutes reflecting quietly before starting the day, ideas come more naturally because the silence removes clutter. When a mother spends 30 minutes in silence before handling the responsibilities of her home, she feels less drained because silence fills her with inner strength. Some may say, I don't have 30 minutes to sit in silence. But my friends, let us be honest. We often spend hours scrolling on our phones, lost in gossip, or worrying about things that may never happen. If you can give that time to distractions, surely you can gift 30 minutes to your own peace. Silence does not demand time from you. Silence returns time to you because a peaceful mind works more effectively, wastes less energy, and makes wiser choices. In those 30 minutes, you are not just sitting quietly, you are watering the roots of your life. A tree that has strong roots can withstand any storm. In the same way, a person who spends time in silence builds of patience, wisdom, and resilience. Life will still throw storms, challenges, failures, unexpected events, but your inner silence becomes your anchor. You are no longer tossed around by the storm. You stand firm because your strength does not come from outside, it comes from within. So, my dear friends, if there is one gift you can give yourself every day, it is 30 minutes of silence. Let it be in the morning, before the world demands your attention, or in the evening before you rest your mind. But give yourself that sacred time. In that half hour, you will discover that silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of your soul. And once you taste that peace, you will never look at silence the same way again. Because 30 minutes of silence daily may seem small, but it has the power to change the way you live every single hour of your life. Gratitude is one of the most powerful practices you can cultivate in your life, and yet it is one of the most underestimated. We often think gratitude is something we feel only when something extraordinary happens. When we receive a promotion, when we buy something new, when someone praises us. But gratitude is not meant to be a rare guest in our lives. It is meant to be a daily companion. And the truth is, 30 minutes spent in gratitude has the power to transform the way you look at everything. When you pause and consciously practice gratitude, you are not just saying, thank you. You are training your mind to notice blessings that are already around you. The problem is, our minds are naturally drawn to what is missing, to what is lacking, to what is wrong. For example, if 9 things go well in your day and 1 thing goes wrong, where does the mind usually focus? On the one thing that went wrong. And when we keep focusing on lack, we feel frustrated, angry, or hopeless. Gratitude flips this perspective. It teaches you to focus on the 9 blessings instead of the one complaint. And when you consistently do that, your mood, your energy, and your entire outlook on life begin to shift. Think about your own mornings. Many of us wake up and immediately start worrying the deadlines, the bills, the arguments, the tasks that await us. Now imagine beginning your day differently. Imagine sitting for 30 minutes, either in silence or with a notebook, and simply listing the things you are grateful for. The fact that you woke up when many did not. The fact that your body still breathes for you without your effort. The fact that you have a roof over your head, even if it is not the fanciest one. The fact that there are people in your life who care, even if they are imperfect. The fact that you have food to eat when many go hungry. These are not small things, they are life itself. When you start your day with gratitude, your problems don't disappear, but your capacity to handle them increases because your mind is filled with strength instead of scarcity. Let me give you an example. Imagine 2 people stuck in traffic. One is fuming, frustrated, honking, shouting, thinking, "Why is this happening to me? I'm losing time." His stress levels rise, his energy drains before he even reaches his destination. The other person, while stuck in the same traffic, decides to practice gratitude. At least I have a car to sit in, at least I am safe, at least I have music to listen to, at least I am on my way to a job that supports me. Now tell me, who suffers more? The traffic is the same, but the experience is completely different because gratitude shifts the state of the heart. Sometimes we think gratitude means denying problems, but that is not true. Gratitude does not ignore pain, it simply does not allow pain to blind us to the blessings that exist alongside it. Life is never only good or only bad. Even in hardship, there is something to be thankful for. For instance, when someone falls sick, gratitude may sound difficult. But even then, gratitude can say, "I am thankful for the doctors helping me. I am thankful that I am healing. I am thankful that this illness reminds me to value my health." Gratitude gives hope where hopelessness wants to grow. Now think of relationships. How often do conflicts arise simply because we focus on what someone did not do for us instead of remembering all that they have done? A husband may forget to say one kind word and the wife feels unloved, forgetting the countless ways he supports her daily. A friend may miss one call and we label them careless, forgetting the years of companionship they have given us. Gratitude in relationships is like sunlight to flowers. It makes them bloom. If we can spend even 30 minutes a day reflecting on what people add to our lives instead of what they lack, our hearts will soften, our appreciation will deepen, and love will flow more freely. There is also a spiritual aspect to gratitude. Every tradition, every culture, every philosophy highlights thankfulness as the doorway to peace. When you thank God for the blessings you have, you are not just showing courtesy, you are strengthening your connection to the divine. Gratitude says, "I may not have everything I desire, but I have more than enough to recognize your generosity." That humility and recognition opens the heart to receive more, not just materially, but emotionally and spiritually. Even scientifically, gratitude is proven to reduce stress, improve sleep, strengthen immunity, and increase happiness. But beyond all of this, gratitude gives you a kind of inner wealth that no money can buy. You may not have the biggest house, the highest salary, or the latest phone, but if you live in gratitude, you feel rich every single day. On the other hand, you may have all the riches in the world, but if you are always ungrateful, you will feel poor inside. So, my dear friends, Gratitude is not a reaction to something extraordinary, it is a choice in the ordinary. When you practice gratitude for 30 minutes each day, whether through writing, praying, or simply reflecting, you train your mind to see life not as a burden, but as a blessing. And this practice does not just stay in those 30 minutes, it colors the rest of your day. You walk with more calmness, you speak with more kindness, you live with more peace. Remember, this gratitude turns what we have into enough, and sometimes even more than enough. Life is not about waiting for everything to be perfect before you feel thankful. Life is about being thankful and then realizing that perfection is already hidden in the small things you were overlooking. So, give yourself 30 minutes each day and let gratitude be your teacher. Because gratitude is not just an emotion, it is a way of life, a way of seeing beauty where others see nothing, a way of finding joy where others see sorrow, and a way of living that makes every moment a gift. Meditation and prayer are like two wings of the same bird. One brings you back to yourself, the other lifts you closer to the divine. Together, they create balance, peace, and strength that nothing in the outside world can shake. When you dedicate just 30 minutes to meditation and prayer, you are not escaping from life. You are equipping yourself with the power to live it more deeply, more meaningfully, and more peacefully. Meditation is the art of quieting the mind. Think of your mind as a restless monkey jumping from branch to branch. It goes from the regret of yesterday to the worry of tomorrow, from comparing yourself to others to replaying conversations you wish had gone differently. This monkey mind rarely sits still, and because of that, you rarely feel peace. But meditation is like gently training this monkey to sit in one place, to calm down, to breathe. In that stillness, you begin to see yourself more clearly. You notice your thoughts without being controlled by them. You notice your emotions without being consumed by them. And slowly, you discover that peace was not outside, it was always within you, just hidden under the noise. Prayer, on the other hand, is the language of the heart. It is not about reciting words mechanically. It is about pouring your soul into a conversation with the one who understands you fully. In prayer, you don't need to pretend. You don't need to edit your words. You don't need to impress anyone. You can come as you are, broken or whole, confused or clear, joyful or hurting, and you are received with love. Prayer is like a child speaking to a parent with trust that whatever happens, they are cared for. Let me share a simple example. Imagine a person who starts his day by checking his phone, rushing to work, stressing over deadlines. His mind is already tired before the day has even begun. Now imagine another person who wakes up and gives himself 30 minutes, 15 minutes of meditation, where he sits quietly, focusing on his breath, observing his thoughts, but not holding on to them. Then 15 minutes of prayer, where he expresses gratitude, asks for strength, and surrenders his worries to God. Tell me, who do you think carries more peace into the day? The first person may achieve tasks, but the second achieves balance. And in the long run, balance is what sustains success and happiness. Meditation is like sharpening the sword of your mind. Without sharpening, even the strongest sword becomes blunt. Similarly, without meditation, even the most intelligent mind becomes restless and ineffective. When you meditate, your focus improves, your memory strengthens, and your decision making becomes clearer. That's why so many successful people around the world dedicate time to meditation, because they know a calm mind is a powerful mind. Prayer is like watering the roots of your faith. Just as a tree cannot survive without roots, You cannot thrive without connection to something higher. When you pray, you remind yourself that you are not alone in your struggles, that there is a force guiding you, supporting you, and carrying you even when you feel weak. Many times in life, we feel helpless because things are out of our control. Prayer teaches us that even when life is not in our hands, it is still in safe hands. That assurance gives you courage to face what comes your way. Think about relationships again. Meditation helps you manage your emotions so you don't explode in anger or collapse in despair. Prayer helps you forgive others because you realize how much you yourself are forgiven. A person who meditates speaks with calmness. A person who prays speaks with compassion. And when calmness and compassion come together, relationships flourish. Even in the toughest times, meditation and prayer bring light. Imagine someone who loses their job. Without inner practices, this person may collapse in fear, losing hope and confidence. But someone who meditates and prays sees the situation differently. In meditation, they calm their panic and see possibilities. In prayer, they surrender their fear and gain strength to keep moving. The problem may still be there, but the person changes. And when you change, the way you handle problems changes too. Another daily example, imagine a mother exhausted with her responsibilities, feeling overwhelmed by the constant demands of her children and home. 30 minutes of meditation helps her breathe, helps her release tension, helps her feel lighter. 30 minutes of prayer helps her remember she is not carrying it all alone, that she has divine support. And when she returns to her family after this practice, she is not drained, she is refreshed, able to give love without feeling empty. Meditation and prayer are not about quantity, they are about quality. Even a few minutes done with sincerity can change your state. But when you commit to 30 minutes every day, you create a powerful routine that becomes your anchor. Life will still bring challenges, stress at work, misunderstandings at home, unexpected losses. But with meditation and prayer, you have an inner sanctuary to return to. You know how to quiet your mind, you know how to speak to your Creator, and in that space, you always find peace. So, my dear friends, understand this. Meditation teaches you how to sit with yourself. Prayer teaches you how to surrender yourself. Meditation shows you the power within. Prayer connects you to the power beyond. When both come together, you become unshakable. 30 minutes a day is all it takes. 30 minutes that may seem small, but in truth, they build the foundation of a life filled with balance, clarity, and deep inner joy. Reading uplifting words for 30 minutes a day is like feeding the soul with fresh air. Just as the body cannot survive without nourishing food, the mind cannot thrive without nourishing thoughts. What we read, what we listen to, and what we allow into our mental space shapes the way we think, the way we act, and ultimately, the way we live. Many of us don't realize it, but our inner world is constantly being influenced by the words around us. If you spend the day scrolling through negative news, gossip, or comparison-filled social media, how do you expect your mind to feel? It will feel heavy, restless, and drained. But if you intentionally dedicate 30 minutes to reading words that uplift you, inspire you, and connect you to higher wisdom, your mind begins to feel lighter, clearer, and stronger. Words have power. A single sentence can heal, a single paragraph can change a perspective, a single page can shift the direction of a life. Think of a time when you read something that touched your heart deeply. Maybe it was a line reminding you to be patient, or a story showing resilience, or a verse that made you feel God's presence more vividly. Those words stayed with you. didn't they? They echoed in your mind long after you closed the book. That is the power of uplifting words. They don't just end when the reading ends, they continue to guide you throughout the day. Imagine starting your morning with a book of wisdom instead of a phone filled with distractions. Instead of comparing your life with others on social media, you read a passage that reminds you to be grateful for what you already have. Instead of beginning your day with complaints, you read a story of someone who found strength in adversity, and suddenly your own challenges don't feel as heavy. Those 30 minutes of uplifting reading are like planting seeds in the soil of your mind. Throughout the day, those seeds grow into thoughts that encourage, motivate, and support you. Think of it like this: your mind is a garden. Whatever you read are the seeds you plant. If you plant seeds of negativity, criticism, and fear, weeds will grow. But if you plant seeds of gratitude, wisdom, and inspiration, flowers will bloom. Now the choice is yours. What seeds will you plant every day? 30 minutes is enough to plant seeds that can change the entire atmosphere of your inner garden. Let me give you an example. A student struggling with stress before exams may spend hours worrying, comparing himself with others, and doubting his own abilities. But if he spends 30 minutes each morning reading uplifting words, maybe from a book of motivation or spiritual wisdom, his mindset changes. Instead of, "I can do this," he starts thinking, "I have the strength to try." That one shift doesn't magically erase the exam, but it changes his energy towards it. He studies with more focus, less fear, and greater hope. All because of the words he allowed into his mind. Or think of a woman overwhelmed with responsibilities at home. She feels unappreciated, drained, and tired. But she dedicates 30 minutes to reading words of encouragement, maybe reflections about the beauty of patience, the dignity of service, or the strength of women who quietly build worlds. Those words don't remove her responsibilities, but they give her a new lens. Suddenly, she feels that her role has meaning, that her efforts are not in vain, and that her strength is extraordinary. With that perspective, she finds energy she thought she had lost. Even leaders, thinkers, and visionaries across history made reading uplifting words a daily habit. Why? Because they knew that to lead others, they first had to feed their own minds. A mind deprived of wisdom cannot guide others. That is why even today, successful people dedicate time to reading, not just for knowledge, but for nourishment. And we too can do the same. What's important to understand is that reading uplifting words is not about the quantity of pages you finish, but the quality of thoughts you absorb. You don't need to rush through books. Even a single meaningful line can transform your day. Sometimes you may read just one page that tells you, "Peace is found within," and those 6 words guide you for the next 24 hours. Other times, you may read a story that reminds you of the resilience of the human spirit, and that story stays in your heart whenever you feel weak. Another daily life example: imagine a man going through a financial struggle. Bills are piling up, and worry is consuming him. If he fills his mind with negativity, he will drown in despair. But if he spends 30 minutes reading stories of people who rebuilt their lives, words of hope that remind him that nothing lasts forever, and wisdom that teaches him resilience, he finds courage. He realizes that while his situation is hard, his spirit can still be strong. Those words give him the strength to keep going until the storm passes. Words shape thoughts, thoughts shape actions, and actions shape destiny. That is why choosing what you read is as important as choosing what you eat. If you eat unhealthy food every day, your body weakens. If you read unhealthy words every day, your mind weakens. But if you nourish your body with good food and your mind with good words, both become strong, resilient, and full of energy. So, my dear friends, give yourself this simple but powerful gift. Just 30 minutes a day, choose to read something that uplifts you, something that awakens the better version of you, something that reminds you of the presence of God and the strength of your soul. Because when you fill your mind with light, darkness has no space to grow. And when your mind is filled with uplifting words, your heart naturally begins to live an uplifting life. Planning with purpose is like giving direction to the river of your life. Without direction, a river may scatter into muddy swamps, but when it is guided, it flows powerfully toward the ocean. The same is true for our lives. When you wake up each day without purpose, your energy scatters, your time is wasted, and by nightfall you often wonder, where did the day go? But when you dedicate 30 minutes to purposeful planning, you align your energy with clarity, and suddenly every action begins to serve a higher meaning. Purposeful planning is not about cramming endless tasks into a to-do list. It is about asking yourself, what really matters today? What actions will bring me closer to the life I want to live? What choices will make my day meaningful, not just busy? So often we confuse business with productivity. Many people rush all day, moving from one activity to the next, and yet they feel unfulfilled because their efforts are scattered, not purposeful. But with half an hour of intentional planning, you bring focus into the chaos and clarity into the confusion. Think of an archer. If he simply shoots arrows without aiming, he wastes his strength and never hits the target. But if he spends a few moments aligning himself with the target, one arrow is enough. Planning with purpose is like aligning yourself before releasing your arrows of effort. You may have fewer arrows, but they will strike with impact. Imagine a student preparing for exams. Without planning, he may study randomly, wasting time on what feels urgent rather than what is truly important. He burns out quickly and feels unprepared. But if he spends 30 minutes planning, deciding which subjects to focus on, setting time blocks, and prioritizing weak areas, his efforts become more effective. He may study fewer hours, but the results are stronger because his actions are guided by purpose, not panic. The same applies to work. Picture someone arriving at the office and immediately drowning in emails, calls, and requests. By the end of the day, they feel drained, yet they wonder if anything meaningful was achieved. Now picture another person who begins the day with 30 minutes of purposeful planning. They identify the top 3 priorities, delegate smaller tasks, and carve out space for reflection. At the end of the day, they feel fulfilled because their energy was directed, not scattered. Both worked the same number of hours, but one built stress while the other built progress. The difference was not time, but purposeful planning. Even in relationships, purposeful planning matters. How often do we say, I want to spend more time with my family, I want to call my parents, I want to appreciate my spouse. But then we never do because we never plan for it. We let the days steal away our intentions. But if in those 30 minutes of planning, you make space to schedule time with loved ones, suddenly your relationships begin to flourish. Purpose is not about grand gestures, it is about small, intentional acts repeated consistently. Let us also look at the inner side of life. Without planning, we often neglect the very practices that strengthen us spiritually: meditation, prayer, gratitude, silence. We say, I'll do it when I have time. But time never comes on its own, it must be created. Purposeful planning is how you create that sacred time. When you write it into your day, you protect it. And when you protect it, it protects you, giving you strength for everything else you face. There is also an important distinction. Purposeful planning is not about control, it is about clarity. Life will still bring surprises, delays, and changes. A rigid plan breaks when life bends it, but a purposeful plan bends along with life because its foundation is intention, not perfection. For example, you may plan to exercise in the morning, but an emergency changes your schedule. Instead of abandoning it completely, purposeful planning helps you adapt. Maybe you take a walk during lunch or stretch in the evening. The purpose remains intact, even if the method shifts. A daily life example: think of a mother managing both her children and her work. Without planning, she may feel overwhelmed, constantly reacting to demands. But when she spends 30 minutes planning her day, organizing meals, setting priorities for work, and carving out time to rest, she feels calmer. The same responsibilities remain, but her approach changes. Her mind is lighter, her actions more organized, and her energy more peaceful. This is the gift of planning with purpose. It doesn't eliminate challenges, it makes you stronger in facing them. Planning also gives your life a sense of direction beyond just today. When you dedicate time daily to align with your bigger vision, the kind of person you want to become, the values you want to live by, the legacy you want to leave, your short-term actions begin to serve long-term meaning. Without this, you may achieve short-term success but feel empty inside. With this, even the smallest action feels meaningful because it is connected to a bigger purpose. So, my dear friends, understand that purposeful planning is not about creating a perfect schedule, it is about creating a meaningful one. It is not about filling every minute, it is about filling minutes with meaning. 30 minutes of sitting with yourself each day, reflecting, writing, and setting intentions can transform your entire approach to life. You will find that you are no longer just surviving days, you are designing them. And when you design your days, you design your destiny. The truth is, time will pass anyway. Days will come and go. The difference between a life that feels wasted and a life that feels fulfilling is this simple act of planning with purpose. 30 minutes may seem small, but it holds the power to shape how you live every other hour. And when done consistently, those small, purposeful plans build into a life of clarity, balance, and deep satisfaction. There is something very beautiful about the discipline of choosing what we feed our mind every single day. We live in a world where our attention is constantly being hijacked, where notifications are buzzing, screens are glowing, and the noise of comparison never seems to end. And yet, in the middle of all this chaos, we forget a simple truth: what you consume is what you become. Just like our body becomes the reflection of the food we eat, our mind becomes the reflection of the information and energy we allow inside it. If you feed your body junk food, it shows in your health. Similarly, if you feed your mind negativity, complaints, gossip, and endless distractions, it will reflect in your attitude, your decisions, and ultimately, the quality of your life. Think about it. If someone spends their mornings scrolling through other people's achievements, envying their success, comparing lifestyles, and letting insecurities grow, how can they expect to walk into their own day with confidence and clarity? If someone fills their mind with constant news of fear, chaos, and hatred, can they expect to carry peace within? No, because the mind is like a sponge, it absorbs what we pour into it. And the question is not whether it will absorb or not. The real question is, what are we pouring in? This is why being intentional about what we feed our mind is not just important, it is life changing. Let me give you a very simple daily life example. Imagine two people starting their day. The first one wakes up, stretches, sits in silence, maybe reads a few pages of something uplifting, or listens to a short reflection that fills them with gratitude and positivity. The second one wakes up, grabs their phone immediately, scrolls endlessly, consumes random content, and allows their emotions to be pulled in every direction before they even step out of bed. Now pause and ask yourself, when both of them step into the world, who will walk with balance and strength? The first one has chosen to set the tone of their day with clarity, while the second has surrendered their inner world to the outer noise. And this is not just about mornings. It is about every choice we make in the little pauses of life. While commuting, one person listens to inspiring talks, podcasts, or soothing music that uplifts the spirit, while another fills their ears with negativity, anger, or gossip. At night, one person reflects on gratitude and blessings before sleeping, while another person sleeps with their mind restless from binge watching things that only add confusion. These choices may seem small, but over time, they create two very different lives. Feeding the mind is just like cultivating a garden. If you sow weeds, weeds will grow. If you sow flowers, flowers will bloom. Our mind is fertile ground, and what we choose to plant inside will determine what grows outside in our character, in our relationships, and in our destiny. People often say, I want peace, I want focus, I want happiness, but if their daily intake is only noise, chaos, and negativity, they are planting seeds of disturbance, not peace. Even in friendships and company, the same principle applies. If you spend most of your time around people who complain, who criticize, who pull others down, it won't be long before their mindset seeps into you. But if you spend time with people who encourage, uplift, and challenge you to grow, you will start becoming like them. As the saying goes, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. One very practical way to change what we feed our mind is to consciously create mind diets. Just like nutritionists tell us what to eat for better health, we can design what to consume mentally for better clarity. Maybe 20 minutes of something inspiring every morning, limiting time on content that doesn't serve us, avoiding gossip, practicing silence, or reading something spiritually nourishing. These are not just habits, they are investments. And these investments compound over time. I have seen people who were once consumed with anger and bitterness transform completely by simply changing what they fed their mind. They replaced blame with gratitude, negativity with affirmations, gossip with wisdom, and slowly their life began to shine differently. Their circumstances didn't necessarily change overnight, but their perspective did. And when perspective shifts, the entire world feels different. So, my friends, let us not treat our mind casually. Let us not let random things decide what enters the sacred space of our thoughts. Every time we consume something, be it through words, sounds, visuals, or company, we are shaping our inner world. And the inner world always reflects in the outer world. If you want peace outside, create peace inside by feeding peace to your mind. If you want clarity in your actions, feed clarity through knowledge and silence. If you want love in your relationships, feed your mind with compassion and understanding. The power to change your life begins with the power to choose what you let in. And that choice is in your hands every single day, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind today? Because the answer to that question is the answer to how your life will look tomorrow.